Good morning. Welcome into Let's Bet It here on Pickswise and Pickswise.com. I'm Mark Zinno, joined by Jared Smith. Happy Sunday, everybody. Let's Bet It is brought to you by our friends at Superbook Sports. We got a lot to get to today as we are 1 week away from Super Bowl 57. We'll get some news from around the NFL and the league as far as the game is concerned. We will go to the NBA, look at some props as well with our good buddy Bobby Stanley, a.k.a. Prop Holliday, will join us, as well as Sean Green will give us a Super Bowl preview. And we'll have our plays of the day, all that coming up here. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. Give a thumbs up and a like to all the content there as well. Make sure you download the Pickswise app. It's available on the Apple Store and Google Play. Jared, happy Sunday. 1 week away, brother. The noise will get ratcheted up this whole week, and we will have plenty of other things to talk about. But 1 week away, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's definitely I'm at that point now where the saturation level has almost been reached in terms of my preparation, how much I can actually get involved, and it's getting close. I've only locked in just one bet so far, but I think over the next day or two I'll start to get some of my props in, and the numbers are going to start to move. The limits are going to start to expand next week, and a lot of the prop numbers have moved already. But I think middle of next week is when the final stretch, the quarter pole will start to turn for home. So yeah, it's a weird week. The week before the Super Bowl is a weird week, and we had a ton of news break this week, of course, because that's just what the NFL is. But excited for next week when things really start to heat up.
Yeah, I mean, I have locked in one play as well, and I'm not too happy about it because I waited on a number and I waited too long and it moved, and I went and locked it in anyway just because of what I feel like the game script is going to be here. But overall, I'm with you. And everybody, folks, I'll say this again out loud, and I'll say it every time between now and Super Bowl Sunday. And when Prop Holiday gets here, I'll tell him too. When you're looking at props, continue to look for unders, folks. 80% of these props on Super Bowl Sunday are all going to go under. It's the way it works out, right? I mean, there's not a lot of them that go over. So the public will love to continue to bet overs because it's fun and it's what you root for. But most props trend is to being under than over. Correct, Jared?
Yeah, and I would always lean on plus money because the over, when you do like bets that move too much, the public, the Super Bowl and, the championship weekend too, but really the Super Bowl in the prop market is really the one weekend where like the public really has their say. So lines typically move too much. And when you are looking for under opportunities, plus money is the kind of moment when it usually does move too much, especially the overs that are like minus 150, minus 160. And you're just looking at, you're like, man, how can that not go over? Now I'm not just saying just go blind bet every under. There's handicapping involved too, but to me, plus money props, we call them plops. Those are money at this time of year. And yeah, unders, you're right. About 80% of them do tend to stay under. So it's really good advice.
All right. Some news from around the league. Just some quick injury news for the Chiefs. Juju Smith-Schuster, knee issues listed as questionable. Mecole Hardman and his pelvis listed as doubtful. I don't know if the Mecole Hardman thing really necessarily moves the needle for me because he didn't play all that much in the AFC Championship game. But Schuster was a big part of the offense in the AFC Championship game. He was probably the most reliable target that Patrick Mahomes had. So how much do you make of this thing? I mean, there's still a whole week before the game. My guess is he's playing. Everybody who physically can play will play in this thing. At a minimum, suit up. How much he'll actually get used, obviously, is a game script, game plan thing for Andy Reid. But I don't think any of these players are moving the line in any given direction.
No, I agree. And I think this week really can't take anything from it because any sensible coach with a head on his shoulders, which Andy Reid certainly has, why would you practice them this week? Why would you push any of that? These guys are not like, this is week 21. Why there's no need for them to practice. There's no need for them to get the reps. The rest matters a lot more. And I didn't expect any of those guys to practice this week. Hardman hasn't played almost all year, so that's not really going to change much. I think Tony's the one guy that if Tony and Juju both miss the game and it's a cluster injury to two key guys that have been there all year, then and I know Tony has been there all year, but his little stretch the last half of the year has been pretty impactful with the Chiefs. then I'll start to, okay, then the line probably moves back to 2 or 2.5 on Philly. I think if those guys practice this week and all the receiving group is up, I think the line closes at Philly -1. That it seems like that's kind of the inevitability we've been moving towards over the last few days, with that sharp buyback at 2.5, and it's kind of just been hovering at 1.5 pretty much the entire week. I think 1 seems to be the right closing number if these guys, the receiver group for the Chiefs, are up next week.
All right, with that, some other news from around the league. According to the Miami Herald, it's not expected that the Dolphins will re-sign free agent tight end Mike Gesicki, who kind of, when Tua first hit the league, was very much a sort of security blanket, as many tight ends often are. But as you started beefing up the Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill parts of the offense, you didn't need him as much, right? And so he's kind of took a hit last year from a production standpoint. Still a very talented tight end. I think there's a lot of different places he can go and find a home. But yeah, I mean, interesting to say the least that Miami would let him walk.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole. I mean, I think we're going to hear a lot of these stories over the next few weeks. Guys that want to return and restructuring their contracts to return, and guys that don't want to return, and guys that want to move on. I think Gesicki and I think the entire Dolphins offense is going to be an interesting offseason adjustment because we just don't know what Tua's situation is. I mean, I think he's going to come back and play, but I don't know that for 100% sure. And I don't know what Mike McDaniel's situation is. I feel like the hot seat is kind of inevitable with him based on his coaching style, and the quarterback obviously have a big impact on that. I think the next story is the more interesting one from a off-season intrigue perspective with the Schefters and Derek Carr for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's been given permission to speak with other teams by the Raiders. Derek Carr can now talk with whomever he likes and try to work out a trade as long as they agree to the compensation that the Raiders want in return. Look, there's a lot of very good homes out there for Derek Carr. And you know what's interesting? And I don't know that the Raiders actually would want this in compensation, but I mean, some level of a swap with picks included. Aaron Rodgers goes to Raiders and Derek Carr goes to Green Bay. Who says no?
I mean, I like the fits. I like the Rodgers fit in Vegas. I could see that. I don't see him going to the Jets. I don't see that happening. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't want to go to the Jets. I wouldn't really want to go to the Raiders either, frankly. I don't think there's a perfect fit for Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to have to probably bend the knee, so to say, to one of these teams.
Even though they probably can't afford him and don't want him per se. But Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan is as close to a perfect fit as you can get.
That ain't happening though. I mean, they've got Lance and now Purdy. I don't see that happening.
No, I don't either. But you asked for a perfect fit. I didn't say it was actually feasible.
Yeah, well then it's not a perfect fit. No, I'm just kidding. It's a perfect fit on paper, but I think money wise it's not. I think that's the reason why they wouldn't be able to do that. I could see Vegas. It'd be fun. Maybe a move again across the street. Start to hang out, become friends with Aaron Rodgers. We can go on the golf course together down here in Southern Highlands. There's gonna be a spot for Derek too. I could see Derek landing in Tennessee. I could see Derek landing in Houston. I could see Derek landing with a team that, has a veteran team, just maybe is not a very sexy team. That I think Tennessee. Listen, Tennessee is going to be a good landing spot for somebody. I mean, they were a very well coached team with a great defense and a pedigree. They're a quarterback away and probably a receiver or two away, but you got to have the quarterback first. So, there's going to be a spot for Derek. I don't know where, but there will be.
I would take Carr here in Atlanta. I absolutely would take Carr in Atlanta.
That's another spot I've heard for one of these guys landing. All
4 teams in the NFC South feasibly have major questions at quarterback.
Yeah, now throw the Bucs in the mix too.
Yeah, I mean, there's after 4 games, that's not really a sample size where you believe that he's going to be your quarterback in the future. And I will say this: you mentioned San Francisco and Purdy. I still think it's a little premature to believe that Brock Purdy is your quarterback of the future after a 7-game run.
Yeah, I
Granted,
agree.
it
It'll
was
be Lance.
impressive.
It's going to be Trey Lance. He's only played 8 games in the league. They gave up 3 first-round picks for him. I mean, I think you got to give him at least a try to give him a season.
Yeah, and the crazy part is he's going to be the healthy one heading into training camp, not Brock Purdy. So the likelihood that we'll see both of those guys under center next year probably pretty high, to say the least. But let's pivot now and bring
Let him compete.
Our good buddy Bobby Stanley, a.k.a. Prop Holliday, as we take a look at some props not only for the NBA. Yeah, welcome in, buddy. And apparently you got an email or some sort of beeping going off there, but we welcome you in here with a smile on this Sunday and your New Jersey Devils hat. Good to see you repping the Prudential, the home of the Rock, baby, the Devils. Let's talk some early Super Bowl props for Super Bowl 57. Anything start to peek out of you? Jared mentioned that lines are going to start to move in the middle of this week, and people are going to start to making their bets sooner rather than later. So give me sort of some leans or forecasts ahead for what you're looking at.
Sure. Well, I try to get my picks out pretty early this week on Pickswise.com. I think I had some articles up by Tuesday or Wednesday, the latest, because opening lines were very, very attractive, at least for the overs. As we start getting closer, obviously next week into the Super Bowl, it may be a spot to middle, it may be a spot to pivot and just go unders, because these lines have gone pretty much haywire. I loved Patrick Mahomes over 36.5 pass attempts when it opened. I took a look at it last night. It's at 39.5. All the value is gone. Wow. Why did I love it at 36.5? He hit it 61% of postseason games, both Super Bowl appearances. He's getting healthy. I'm expecting this to be a little bit more of a back and forth than we saw kind of in the divisional rounds and the championship games as far as game script. So loved it at 36.5, 39.5. I think it's gone. So if you're betting player props this week, strongly consider the unders, because the public really hammered them up during the week.
100%. I mean, we were just talking about it before you came on. I think the game script, it should be your guide. And if a prop looks way off from where your game script, or obviously some people probably won't have their own number. They're probably just looking at each prop individually and trying to say, oh, is this good or is this not? If it doesn't match your game script, don't even consider betting it over. And if it does match your game script, then look at the number and see where it is. And also shop these numbers around, guys. This is the one week where every single sports book is putting out prop numbers more than usual. And when you put out more product than you're used to doing, that's where some of the holes can be found. And I'm not saying there's going to be holes with Patrick Mahomes' numbers, but there might be some holes with some of the younger, not the younger guys, the lesser known guys. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. When do you think your prop article will be out this week so people can get a jump on it really quick, Bubba?
Well, I've had stuff up there, I think since last Tuesday. I've had both teams player props. I've had Super Bowl MVPs. I've had some touchdowns. There is going to be a wrap-up, I think, available right now, if not Monday. But if you see my line, say this Mahomes line, it's 36.5, and you can't get it, I would use a personal judgment of about a 5% rule. If you can't figure out 5% above whatever 36.5 is, please stop betting. But if you get it at 39.5, just pivot away. I do feel bad, but that's the importance of going to Pickswise.com and checking out when these drop. I'll give you another example. Dallas Goedert, loved him at over 45.5. Middle of this Chiefs defense is a funnel, giving up tons of targets. That line's at nearly 50 now. So I would say if you're following my props, use a 5% leeway. And if you can't find it when I wrote it up, stay away entirely. Try to put a couple yards in there saying max it out at this. But like you guys said, it's getting bet up.
Getting late early.
And it is. All right, let's pivot from the NFL to the NBA tonight. Shorter slate here in the NBA on this Sunday, but what player props do you like for the NBA?
So NBA Sunday, I love Donovan Mitchell today. Over on his points prop, we talked about shopping it around. It's 26.5 in some books. I found it at 25.5. He's playing the Pacers today. Mitchell's had a rough 4 games since he's kind of returned from his injury, and I was starting to look at the matchups. Knicks, Clippers, Heat, Grizzlies. These are the top defensive teams in the league, so it's no shock that coming off an injury, he didn't perform too well. So now he gets the Pacers, favorable matchup. This is the third game in 4 days for this Indiana Pacers team. They had a back-to-back this last Thursday and Friday. I love the matchup there. And Mitchell's essentially pretty fresh. He only played 20 minutes before getting ejected Thursday night from that scuffle with the Grizzlies. But this season against the Pacers, he's already had 28 and 41. He's averaging 28 a game on the road, season average of 27. So I love Mitchell tonight. I've had a really good week with NBA doing some ladders. If nobody's familiar with a ladder, you find a player prop, say you like it at 23.5 points. I bet it at 25 at less of a unit. I bet it at 30 at maybe a third of a unit. But I've had a lot of success this week betting in that fashion. Mitchell's going to be one of the guys I play up to 30 for like less of a unit.
Ladders are, I think, a very underutilized
I like it a lot.
tool.
I'm trying to tell you right
arsenal.
That's
Because
a
if
good
there's
read.
value, if you think there's value on the original number, then there's value on every other number above that if it's priced correctly. And I guess some of these aren't always priced correctly, but the ladders are fun. We did the ladders a little bit during college football season for some of the bowl props. It was successful. All right, we'll lead you with this. And I guess we're contractually obligated at some point to talk about Kyrie Irving and his saga. I can't. I'll be honest. I read the reports from the locker room the other night of his players reacting to it, his teammates. They're like, "Yeah, I just woke up and found out on Twitter like you guys did." I mean, he just completely just pulled the rug out from underneath his brothers, his teammates. And I think it speaks volumes about who he is as a person and how he feels about his situation right now. And if I'm the Nets, I don't even know what to do. I try to get him out of town as quickly as possible, and it looks like that's what they're doing. Where do you think he's going to land?
So there's about 5 teams. I started sorting through. The market for him isn't what it was in the summer. He wanted a contract extension in the summer. The Nets justifiably did not give him that. He wanted a contract extension before the trade deadline. The Nets justifiably have not given him that. So he's pretty much telling them, I'm going to walk this summer. You might as well get what you can from me. So let's look at those 5 teams that stand out. And before I go into this, there's no one player that will match Kyrie's value in terms of talent. So you're looking at packages. 5 teams. Mavericks, Heat, Suns, Lakers, Clippers. I'm going to start with the first 2 who I think have the least amount of chance of getting him. Dallas Mavericks. They could probably package Dinwiddie, Christian Wood, and 2 firsts. As long as Luka Doncic is there, those firsts will never be lottery picks. Pass. Miami Heat. Kyle Lowry, Nikola Jovic, not Nikola Jokic, the rookie that they have, and 2 firsts. Again, the Heat are such a good team. They're never going to be in the lottery. Those picks, to me, are worthless. Take them off. Now let's look at the 3 that I feel are a good fit. Phoenix Suns. New owner in town. New owners always love to shake it up and make a stamp on the franchise. I think they could package Chris Paul and Jay Crowder and Dario Saric to make the money work and 2 firsts. That's interesting to me because then you have Chris Paul with Kevin Durant. You could still be somewhat competitive. Personally, I would want Cam Johnson thrown in there, but I doubt the Suns give that up. The Suns, to me, I think are a really good package long-term and short-term. The team that everybody's talking about is the Los Angeles Lakers. They have the most valuable trade piece in all of this. Their 2027 and 2029 unprotected firsts are going to be valuable. AD will be gone. LeBron will be gone. These are the most valuable pieces. So if you're the Nets, are you looking long-term? Because you can ask Danny Ainge how he felt when he collected those firsts and ended up with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And then obviously I think Kyrie would fit there with AD and LeBron. And then the last team is the Clippers. They have an interesting package. You have Luke Kennard, you have Norman Powell, you have Robert Covington. You could put those pieces around Kevin Durant and be competitive. But their firsts are tied up with Paul George in that OKC trade. Ty Lue would love to coach Kyrie again. So those are the 5 teams that stand out the most to me. And I think the Suns and the Lakers offer the most interesting packages if I'm the Nets. I just have to decide, am I looking at this through a microscope or a telescope? If I'm looking long-term, I take the Lakers first. If I want to make a push this year, even though these is extremely competitive, I probably go with the Suns and a Chris Paul, Jay Crowder package.
Wow. Very well done there, Bobby. That was outstanding.
That was
a lot of great.
I'll be honest. I didn't expect that kind of an answer, but are you sure you're not? You could do a better job as GM of the Nets than freaking Sean Marks. Goodness gracious. That was impressive.
I really enjoy the NBA, guys. Whenever you want to talk stuff like this, I'm here for it. I've had a lot better success betting NBA than I did NFL this year. So whenever you're ready, let me know.
That's funny.
All right. Well, beautiful. You already have me invested right now since we have a minute here. I'm starting to look deeper at this Cavaliers -5 here against Indiana. It's starting to sweeten up to me a little bit.
I do. I mean, I just think the Pacers have played far too many games in such a short amount of time. Tyrese Halliburton, I mean, he's coming back from an injury. It's a lot to expect him to have this many games in that period. I'm actually going to the Wizards-Cavs game tomorrow night down in D.C. I'm excited for that one. But I do think the Cavs win pretty handedly. Mitchell's going to play well. Darius Garland's playing out of his mind. I'm curious if they're going to be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline because they can make some noise in the East with their current roster.
Love it.
Gonna be interesting to say the least.
I got nothing else for Bobo, but we can talk. We can circle back on some NFL if we're waiting for Sean.
No, I think we have Sean here ready to go. So we will wish you well. Remember, Donovan Mitchell over 25.5 from Bobby Stanley. Check him out on Twitter at Prop Holiday. 2 L's HOLLIDAY. Bobby, enjoy your Sunday, brother. We'll talk to you
later, fellas.
On the NBA, too. Get set for Super Bowl 57 as we take a deeper dive into the game itself. Let's welcome in Sean Green, who is going to give us a Super Bowl preview here on Let's Bet It this morning. Sean, welcome in. Happy Sunday to you. 1 week away from the greatest spectacle in all of sports, as they say. Great to be with you here on this Sunday morning, and welcome.
What's happening, guys? Yeah, I just did the math. I think, you're looking at, 176 hours till kick. Just been counting them down. Ready to go. Already got my prop list ready. And, yeah, man, I mean, Eagles are in the Super Bowl. I'll be out there for the Super Bowl. Just couldn't ask for anything more.
When are you going to be out there, bud? I head into town tomorrow. I'll be doing some stuff throughout the week. When are you going to be out there?
Awesome. Yeah, we get there Tuesday, and then we're staying till Saturday. I'm holding out hope that someone just, feels bad for me and gives me their Super Bowl ticket. But other than that, plan on coming back Saturday.
I'd rather have tickets to Waste Management, frankly, but Super Bowl tickets also are fun. But Waste Management is high on my list of trying to sneak into at some point during the week. But, I mean, to me, you guys are in the perfect spot because the Eagles, the fandom vibes in addition to – I don't know what it's like as a Jets fan. I have no freaking idea what it's like to be in this situation. How is it grading where you're at? Like, oh, I need to actually handicap this game because I'm doing content for it. And then also trying to soak up what is your favorite team from your favorite city in the big game for the second time in 5 years, you lucky bastard.
Well, yeah, Jared, I want to tell you it's not that big of a deal, but it is awesome. It's life-changing. One day, Mike White will take you to the promised land or whoever ends up playing for you guys next year.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. There you go. If there's anyone that won't blow a playoff game, it's certainly Aaron Rodgers. It is funny because, like, normally I'll catch myself, like, during the year, especially, like, spending a lot of time listening, reading local stuff. And I'm like, oh, I gotta like read some national stuff. I got to get some more gambling stuff. I can't just read Eagles stuff. But now I can kill two birds with one stone because reading Eagles stuff is getting ready for the Super Bowl. And it is, I do think I have a little bit of edge because I really know this team. Obviously, I don't know as much of the Chiefs off the top of my head, but I think like one matchup that maybe we'll get more talk in the week coming up, I think, is James Bradbury. When the Giants played the Chiefs in 2021, they put him on Kelsey. He held Kelsey to 4 catches for 27 yards. I'll be interested to see how the Eagles play that matchup, but I wouldn't be surprised if they put Bradbury on him. Avonte Maddox is much smaller than Kelsey, and they usually don't leave him out on an island like that. So I think what they're going to do is put James Bradbury on him and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, because then you still have Avonte Maddox and Darius Slay to put on whoever's left. Juju Smith-Schuster, MVS. Doesn't look like Mecole Hardman's going to go. I mean, I like those guys' chances one-on-one, against those Chiefs receivers, whoever ends up playing. So that's an early matchup I'm looking at.
Love it.
All right, Sean. Let me ask you this question because it's the one thing that, us non-Philly folks, and, I'm kind of nauseated at Philly already, but that's neither here nor there. But the one question that we talked about a lot, I mean, it's fair to say the Eagles have had one of the easier paths to the Super Bowl in recent memory as far as the level of opponents they've played. Now, again, give them credit. we'll never know if Brock Purdy was healthy and be able to play 4 quarters, how the rest of that game turns out. The Eagles did what they had to do. They knocked him out of the game. But again, they were never really challenged at any point this year. You could argue their biggest challenge was the Washington Commanders at home in that Monday night spot where they, in a game that they lost. But other than that, they haven't played high-level quarterbacks. They haven't really played a whole bunch of high-level defenses other than the 49ers, who were, on the field for 40 minutes in that game. So purely Eagles fan, how do you respond when people say the Eagles have had a very easy path to get to this game?
Yeah, well, I would say they created a very easy path for themselves by dominating the regular season. And, 49ers fans were whining that, it was unlucky that our quarterback got injured. Yeah, a non-contact ACL injury to me is unlucky. Not being able to block Hassan Reddick the entire game is, to me, that's not luck. Coaching genius Kyle Shanahan, if you're going to leave him one-on-one with a tight end, you're going to get blown up. And not only knocking out Brock Purdy, we also knocked out Josh Johnson because they couldn't stop our defensive line. So, and again, the 49ers were a team, every sharp had number 1 in their power rankings, and we pushed them around physically. I think you look at the way we beat those teams, and not only by the margin, like the way we beat them. We beat them by beating them at their strength. Their strength was stopping the run. They couldn't stop Kenny Gainwell. He looked like, Gale Sayers against that 49ers defense. And you're right. Some of it was game script, but I think they just pushed teams around. And they haven't played, they didn't play the Bills. They didn't play the Bengals, but again, the Chiefs got by the Bengals by the skin of their teeth. They didn't dominate a far inferior Jacksonville Jaguars team. They let Jacksonville hang around in that game. And if it wasn't for an Agnew fumble, again, where he was not contacted, maybe the Chiefs don't even get here. I would say the Chiefs have been luckier in a lot of senses than the Eagles.
They did have a quarterback on one leg for that game against Jacksonville.
Yeah, well, it's Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that's the crux of this game is Patrick Mahomes and how he plays and how his ankle is against what, I think is fair to say the best pass rush in the NFL. And I will echo. So the Eagles 32nd strength of schedule, including the playoffs, Chiefs 30th. So I don't think the strength of schedule is going to be what decides this game. The Eagles, according to my numbers, have played the easiest schedule of opposing passing offenses this year. So obviously they'll be tested. But the Chiefs have played the second easiest schedule of opposing rushing offenses this year. And what do the Eagles do better than anyone? Run the football. And I think that kind of transitioned nicely into the MVP market, Sean, because on the Chiefs side, I am almost 100% confident if Kansas City wins this game, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP. I don't see another scenario where that plays out. On the Eagles side, I can see a lot of scenarios where Philly wins this game and it's not Jalen Hurts as the MVP. So as someone who, follows this team closer than anyone, who are some of those dark horse Eagles candidates that maybe can sneak up and win that award that we can get a pretty juicy price on? Last year it was Cooper Kupp. Who could it be this year?
Yeah, it really is wide open if you take a look at this, because even AJ Brown at plus 1,800, like he hasn't had a big game in the playoffs. Him going up against those cornerbacks, we'll see if Snead plays, but man, you could really see him doing some damage. I thought Hassan Reddick was interesting at the price when he opened. I mean, he was at like 45 to 1 or even 50 to 1, but I think people are kind of hip to the narrative of, he dominated in the conference championship game, and he's a kind of a sexy pick already at 20 to 1. I don't know about him. I think there's interest. I think Devonta Smith is pretty interesting. Of these like long shot ones, I think I would go with Devonta Smith at 40 to 1 because Devonta Smith against second cornerbacks, he's been eaten all year. And even, of these, I would say Devonta Smith's the interesting long shot.
Miles Sanders, I mean, would it be fair if there was an MVP of the NFC Championship game? It would be Reddick, but maybe Sanders too, right? 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, and again, getting back to the Chiefs have allowed 6 yards per carry. That is the highest for any team in the playoffs that's made it to the Super Bowl. The word on the street is that Miles Sanders is dealing with a little bit of a knee issue, and that's why Gainwell has been seeing more carries than normal. There's certainly a world where, hey, coming off a week of rest, they go, full bore and just completely unload the bucket with Miles Sanders. So he could get a ton of carries and get those touchdowns. But yeah, I mean, I'm 100% with you on the Chiefs side. to me, it feels like Mahomes or nothing. I mean, even if it's close between Kelsey and Mahomes, the media just loves Patrick Mahomes, so they'll give it to him.
Reminds me of the Bucks one where it was Devin White, right? He had like a pick, 15 tackles, forced fumble, and you're not taking the MVP from Tom Brady. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not happening.
And I would say too, especially if you're playing some of these alternate MVP bets, also correlate them to them having that awesome game. If you're taking Hassan Reddick, if your book allows you to do a same game parlay, Hassan Reddick MVP, you got to also play Hassan Reddick 2 sacks, maybe even throw an Eagles defensive touchdown, Eagles money line, because the scenarios where these other guys win it, a bunch of other crazy stuff has to happen. So Devonta Smith, you have to play his over receiving yards, him to score a touchdown, and Eagles money line as well, because you're not getting him MVP if that stuff doesn't happen.
Sean, give me the game script for how the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's very simply like just Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. They cannot stop them. To your point about them playing some elite quarterbacks, maybe maybe they just can't slow down Kelce and Mahomes. He has enough of his mobility back in these past 2 weeks. I mean, he was moving around pretty good in that Bengals game. So maybe they just can't get to him. The pass rush can't get to him. He's able to complete the ball downfield. Isaiah Pacheco shakes loose, and the Chiefs defense is able to do enough like to slow down the Eagles rush game. I think that if they can't stop the Eagles rush attack, I don't see how they win the game. So I think if they're going to win, it's going to, their front seven's going to have to slow down the Eagles offensive line, which is kind of why I'm optimistic about the game and on the Eagles. But to your point, I think it's the Kelce to Mahomes thing, or Mahomes to Kelce. Although who knows, Reed could have a Kelce to Mahomes thing.
You never know.
Yeah, they could.
You never know.
That little carnival ground game, their stupid little carnival game that they like to play. Who knows?
Bring around
top shelf stuff from Andy Reid in this game. Is there any Andy Reid nostalgia for you? I mean, I think that's a fascinating storyline with this game going up against his former team.
Yeah, I mean, I got no beef with Andy Reid. He took us to Super Bowl, didn't win, bunch of NFC championships, was obviously a good coach. I mean, getting rid of him seemed to work out both for, good for both parties, the rare, like, mutually beneficial breakup there. But yeah, I mean, come Sunday, I'm gonna be strapped in. No love lost for Andy Reid. And you want to talk about the coaching matchup? Here's how I would handicap it. Andy Reid's certainly the more experienced head coach, better game planner. Obviously, Andy Reid off a bye is always scary. But I would say Andy Reid in game versus Nick Sirianni in game. I think Nick Sirianni has a nice edge. I mean, you saw, in that alleged Devonta Smith drop, where obviously he clearly dropped it. They rushed up to the line, knowing the challenge.
How are you putting alleged in there? That's such a Philly fan. It was a drop. Alleged.
Look at the box score. Look at the box score. It's graded as a catch. Or even
dotted line.
Yeah, the Brock Purdy fumble. Having the guys know to pick it up, to challenge it. It's just Nick Sirianni is really good at in-game clock management and challenge stuff, which, again, if the game is close, that could be an edge. But you would have to give any sort of pregame stuff, scheming off 2 weeks. Certainly Andy Reid has that edge.
Love it.
Yeah, I just wonder how much the replay assisted, from the booth, which neglected to actually get involved in on that play when it should have, considering what a big play it was earlier on in the game. That's to me, that's one of the flaws.
It's all in the past. I think the Eagles win that game anyways.
That's why you got to rush up to the line and get the playoff.
Yeah,
but it's the inconsistency.
They clearly
with
practice
which
that.
Side. They do practice it, but the inconsistency with which the NFL decides when it's a replay-assisted play and when it's not, to me, it needs to be.
How about this? Every freaking play should be replay-assisted. Like, honestly, we're at that point where they should be looking at every freaking play at every moment. But
I mean,
neither here nor there.
It was weird. Like, early in the playoffs, I feel like the automatic replay was grading a bunch of stuff. And, again, as a fan, you just want them to get it right, even when it goes against your team. But yeah, to your point, like people have asked me, when do they do the automatic replay and when do they don't? And I could not tell you. It seems like
it should be every play at this
Yeah.
point. Like, forget the challenges. We should get rid of the challenges and all this stupid stuff. Every play should be reviewed, get it right. If there's a mistake, it should be fixed. I mean,
Andy Reid's certainly going to vote for that system. Wait, I don't have.
There's a lot of coaches that are going to vote for that.
And then everyone yells at me for being an idiot for challenging the Kadarius Toney catch. Yeah, he would love it. How's he going to burn through his timeouts, Jared?
Exactly. I'll add one more thing in reference to game script, because I think this is curious to see. You mentioned how good the Eagles' pass rush is, and granted, whether you think the Eagles have played elite quarterbacks or not, you can't deny that their pass rush can get to the quarterback against anybody. All that said, I am curious to see how quickly Andy Reid devises a scheme where Mahomes gets the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, because you talk about the use of Kelsey. Those Kelsey drag routes in the middle of the field, they take 3 and 4 seconds to develop. They takes a little while for him to get out there, and that could quickly disappear if there's a guy in his face. Those quick little slant routes and out routes where he gets rid of the ball, I think, is probably the smarter play to dink and dunk and then sort of soften up the pass rush a little bit and spread guys out, then work the middle of the field. But I think that's probably the tack that, if I'm Andy Reid, that's what I would do, is go away from Kelsey early and try to soften the outsides a little bit and the pass rush.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do think that's where those, the other receiver injuries, where we're still waiting to hear. Mecole Hardman looks like he's out, but like a guy like Kadarius Toney, to your point, you can hit him on that bubble screen, force the Eagles to tackle you in open space. If he's not able to go, and we'll see with some of the other guys, I think that's where those injuries become key. Because if you don't have, if you're trotting out Sky Moore and stuff like that, I think that favors the Eagles. But to your point, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of bubble screen stuff going. And again, looking at prop stuff, I do think kind of almost any game script wise, whether you think the Chiefs are up or Chiefs are playing from behind, I think Patrick Mahomes' passing attempts, I would look to play the over on that.
Yeah, that's what our prop guy, Bobby Stanley, before you came on, and that number moved a lot. But even though the game script, it doesn't matter. And I think the game script immune props are ones that I'm much more interested in playing, because let's be honest, this game literally is a toss up. It could go either way. Very hard to predict. It's not like the Eagles-Giants game where you knew the Eagles were going to be ahead and that was going to be the game script, and it was easy to predict. This is much more difficult. Final one before we let you go, Sean. What is your favorite prop for the game? I know you're not going to pick the Chiefs. I know you're going to pick the Eagles, but what's your favorite prop for the game?
Well, I'll give you two real quick. Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. That thing is just a print fest. Even as a guy who likes the Eagles, either way, he's getting in the end zone. Like, in gotta have it situations, he's their goal line back. Circa just put out one that was about Travis Kelce completions versus Jason Kelce snaps. I forget what the exact, or no, it was like.
You mean like a handicap almost, like a minus number on.
I don't have it in front. I don't have it in front of me, but it's like basically
cross sports, like the head-to-head stuff's interesting too. I love, man. They put out so much stuff. It's really hard to wrap your head around, but it is fun it's fun to get into.
I was leaning Jason Kelce snaps because you were getting it plus odds. I forget if it was yards or receptions, how they broke it out.
Everyone's gonna take Travis too, probably.
Yeah, he's the favorite. You expect him to get a huge workload, but even if he's like slightly below his numbers and the Eagles hang on to the ball and run a bunch of plays, I think it's going to feel like a play. Yeah. So that's a fun one. But Hurts anytime touchdown, that's just free money.
There, Sean, we appreciate it. Enjoy Arizona. Enjoy the week and the lead up to Super Bowl 57. And, maybe for this Giants fan who's got Patrick Mahomes fatigue, that they don't play the game, period. I don't have to worry about watching this combination. So
we're going to have Eagles fatigue pretty soon if they keep winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Let's go. Go Birds.
Like I said, this game for me is like watching the Taliban play Al Qaeda. So I could really no desire to watch.
I was going to say it's. I think for the sake of being a New York fan, I think it's hard. It's hard to root for the Eagles, but yeah, there's a lot of Mahomes fatigue out there, so I get it.
I gotta tell you, I mean, listen, if I had to choose from an emotional standpoint a winner, I kind of would rather see the Eagles win. Believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, because
It's a
it
rare spot where the
seems
Chiefs
so.
are kind of the underdog. Very rare.
Yeah.
Public underdog. I mean, the public is against them, and a lot of the sharps too.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we will see how the rest of the week unfolds, and we'll continue to monitor it right here on Let's Bet It. Want to remind you guys that Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. Can you beat Vegas this football season? Superbook gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. No fancy computer algorithms. No one across the pond setting lines for American sports. Just the best team of traders in the business at the Superbook in Las Vegas, plus some of the best odds boosts and promo bets in the country. If you're in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Nevada, New Jersey, or Tennessee, download the Superbook Sports app or visit superbook.com to start your battle against Vegas. It brings us now to the moment of truth for Jared and myself as we get to our plays today. But first, we have the Pickswise.com website with 3-star plays up there. Jared, educate the people what Pickswise.com has for us today.
Yeah, I'm going to give out one of them on the pitch. I don't give out a ton of soccer plays anymore, and I have help from Liam Flynn here with the match coming up in about an hour or so. Actually, no, it's later today. It's about 3 hours. And then we also have an NBA bet for you. Hermantas Nita has a total in the Magic Hornets game. Interesting stuff there. And then I think I'll direct your attention to the rest of the NFL content that is populating the site right now, because there's a lot. And I know it's overwhelming this week, guys. It's going to be a lot. And I think the best advice, we'll talk about it again later in the week, but when you're designing your portfolio, I think this is the one week where less isn't more. And I would rather have more props on my card for just less amount risked, because it's the Super Bowl and I like to have fun. And yes, the unders should be more prominent. You shouldn't have more overs than unders on your card. If you are going to expand your betting menu, like Ben McAdoo's, play sheet back in the day, like the diner menu. I do like to be in prop contests and stuff like that too, but there's a lot of fun bets that, like, even Sean just gave you one, like the Kelsey matchup there. I mean, like, that stuff is really fun, and it's good talking points at your Super Bowl party. If it wins, you look like a genius. If it loses, you look like a moron. But either way, it's fun to talk about and get involved with. And it's different. It's the 1 week all year where the prop menu is so vast that there's no way the sportsbooks can accurately handicap all of these. There are tons of holes in the market. It's your job to find them. It's our job to find them, but it's our job to help you find them. But you can do it too, just by searching and having fun. But a lot of articles, a lot of content, tons of props, tons of unique angles. And yeah, no one better than Pickswise.com to find all that stuff.
All right, with that, time for our plays of the day. I will lead us off here, Jared, and we'll go to the hardwood in the NBA and my hometown, Madison Square Garden, New York City. For whatever reason, Knicks fans haven't treated their people good at Madison Square Garden. The Knicks haven't treated their fans at Madison Square Garden well this season at all. Just 13-15 straight up, 10-16-2 against the number. They welcome Philadelphia and Joel Embiid, the NBA's leading scorer. But really, it's that 76ers defense that's giving up just 110 points per game on the road this year. That's fourth best in the NBA. Sixers have won 5-6. They've gone 4-2 against the number over that span. Knicks are on the tail end of a back-to-back after losing an OT to the Clippers yesterday. Now, one advantage for the Knicks is on the glass. They're the third best rebounding team in the NBA. The Sixers are at the bottom of the league. Now, they may have an even bigger advantage because Embiid is questionable to play in this game. Got to wait and see. But if Embiid is playing, I'm going to back Philadelphia here. Knicks just 3-1 against the number on back-to-backs this year. I'll lay the 4 points with Philadelphia at the Garden today against the New York Knicks.
Love it. All right, we're going to the pitch. It's Man City, Tottenham, Spurs. Very exciting match. Actually, these are two of the best teams in the English Premier League. I'll be honest, I have not watched as much EPL as I had hoped for this year. It's on a little early out here on the West Coast. But this is a match that I will be watching today because Man City's starting to play really well. They're in top form right now. They've won 3 straight. And Spurs are, I don't want to say they're tilting down, but this is a team that is right on the outside of the top 4 in the English Premier League, which, of course, the top 4 is crucial because it gets you a berth into the Champions League. And this is a match that was played a few weeks ago, and Tottenham had a 2-0 lead on the road at halftime, and Man City just buried them in the second half. They scored 4 goals, won the match 4-2. And again, like I said, since then, you've seen Man City really come on. That was the start of this current 3-match win streak, which concluded the other day with a win over Arsenal in the FA Cup. And again, Arsenal right now, first place team in the Premier League. They're having the best season. Tottenham's right there, but I do think Man City's better. And Liam Flynn, our soccer handicapper, agrees. 3-star on Man City money line. It's about -140, fair price. And that's play of the day. Again, I don't bet a ton of soccer this year. I've been super tied up with the other sports, but now that other sport is chilling in terms of the NFL, it's time for us to get involved with the other football. So we'll go Man City on the money line today.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us today here on Pickswise and Pickswise.com. Again, make sure you guys subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel. Download the Pickswise app, available on the Apple Store and Google Play. For Jared Smith, I'm Mark Zinno. You guys have a wonderful Sunday. 1 week away from the Super Bowl. Make sure you keep it locked into Pickswise and Pickswise.com all throughout next week. You guys have a wonderful day. Go get it. Go bet it. See you tomorrow.